yes, 2233 Luann Lane, number 4. Yeah, Madison or Fitchburg. I don't know. No, I just need someone to come right now. We need an ambulance, a SWAT team. I don't know. He's attacking. He won't let go. I'm trying to get him off. There's so much blood. I don't know what to do. Please, someone needs to come right now. I'm so. Oh my God. Oh no! Get off! Get off of me! Go! Ah! Ah!
How has the trial and verdict affected our day-to-day?
It's affected everything. I mean, tensions in the house have never been higher. Especially with the others. The bickering and the fighting, it's just non-stop. There's been zero rest, zero peace. We're just so tired.
I don't know the last time I slept was. I'm just so scared, always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for him to come around the corner and just attack me again. I just need this to be done. I need him gone. I don't know how we've lived like this for so long.
And enough is enough. You know, something's gotta change.
The drug use.
Oh, the drug use.
Oh my God.
It's gotten so bad.
And I encourage it because it's the only time he's calm. It's the only thing that placates him.
He's just a menace.
He's a monster.
And I think what's worse is that between all of this, we just have to... Oh God. Oh God, I think he can hear us.
He's been listening?
I think he's been listening this whole time.
This whole time.
Hi, baby. Are you just the fuzziest little baby?
Man, come here.
Oh, Rasputin, come here.
Oh, goodness.
Come to
Oh.
Mama. Oh God. Are you okay?
No.
Oh God, it's affected just literally everything.
It honestly doesn't feel like it's even ended because nothing's changed. Nothing is different.
Not only has home life not been the same, but now I get people coming into my work and trying to ask questions about it.
I don't care what happens. I just need him out of here. I want to feel safe again.
There were a number of felony charges here. There was false imprisonment, mayhem, which I will explain momentarily, battery to law enforcement, felony intimidation of a victim, and also disorderly conduct, which is a common tack-on for these domestic crimes.
It all started around dinner time. We always start with feeding Rasputin first because he's more persistent.
Rasputin is yelling incessantly for his food.
Then we feed Nome, and then we feed Freya. So Rasputin will finish first, typically, because he's a ravenous little boy.
Rasputin's already done eating his food. He's trying to get to Nome's food. He'll just be there, eating away. And she just lets him. Nome just lets him do that. She doesn't stick up for herself, so I have to. And we have to put him in jail, so to speak, our bathroom. That worked for a little bit.
But he's gotten pretty good at breaking out. And when he breaks out, he'll just come right back.
This night, when he broke out, he started acting like he hadn't been fed.
I mean, he's a grumpy boy, but the anger in his eyes frightened me. He kind of cornered us in there. We tried to push him out, but he wasn't budging.
So false imprisonment, you can kind of guess what that means, but essentially under the statutes, it is that the defendant confined or restrained a victim intentionally. They were confined or restrained without their consent. The defendant had no lawful authority to confine the victim and knew that they didn't have lawful authority.
It's a simple matter of physics. He is simply too small to imprison anyone. False imprisonment. Pish.
And they were in there for quite some time, unable to leave the kitchen. It's clear that he knew he couldn't restrain them in there. It's clear that he knew that he was doing something bad.
I tell you what, so our strategy with the false imprisonment was to prove that our client is only yay tall, and someone who is yay tall cannot imprison someone who is yay tall. He's only 11 inches tall. You could just step over him. Are you kidding me?
He trapped us in the kitchen, and I guess I made eye contact with him wrong. I looked at him, and just there was like a fire, like some kind of look. And that's when he pounced on me.
He just lunged straight for Misha's crotch.
I'd rather not discuss it further. It's all in the court case. I don't like reliving that moment.
Just latched right onto him. And I tried kind of prying him off, but Misha just yelled more, which was a really sad, pathetic sound.
I'm told that I screamed really loud and high-pitched. I heard the word pathetic used, which, from what people tell me, fair.
As for the next charge, mayhem, that's a pretty unusual charge. We don't see that often, and I was quite excited to not only charge it, but get to proceed to trial on a mayhem. Essentially what mayhem is the defendant cut or mutilated the tongue, ear, eye, nose, lip, limb, or any other bodily part of a victim. This cutting or mutilation had to have caused great bodily harm, and the defendant intended to disable or disfigure the victim. How do I put this sensitively? In this case, the victim was attacked in the groinal region. It was his male member. The defendant jumped and bit through the fabric of the victim's pants, of victim one's pants. And I won't get into detail about the injuries. They were brutal. There's blood everywhere. It was truly something.
Oh, for the charge of mayhem. Yeah, no contest there. That was just unfortunate. That victim got messed up pretty bad. Just shredded it. Just like shredded chicken.
So I decided to call 911. And as I was trying to give the address, let them know what was happening, that's when he decided to let go and came right at me, just knocking the phone off. I was so shocked. I didn't know what to do. I just tried to get the phone, but he wouldn't get off of me. And now I'm yelling. Misha's crying and bleeding.
After the attack on victim 1, victim 2 was able to reach for her cell phone and call 911. And that ended up being a dropped call because in the process of calling 911, defendant then jumped from victim 1's crotch almost in like a parkour motion onto victim 2 and knocked the phone out of her hand aggressively. This resulted in an intimidation of a victim charge. The defendant knowingly attempted to prevent a victim from making a report of victimization to law enforcement. He saw that she was calling 911 and he attacked.
On the charge of intimidation of a victim, I laugh. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? He cannot possibly nicely ask her to put the phone down. He doesn't have language, so he uses the tools at his disposal. His little fluffy mittens.
Because then the cop showed up and, well, that made him even more mad. We asked them not to use aggressive, force, but, he's a quick little fella.
When law enforcement finally arrived, the defendant went what we would colloquially call apeshit. The officers attempted to first de-escalate the situation with the defendant, and the defendant essentially engaged in a somewhat hostage situation with the officers who were attempting to get the victims out of the kitchen and were unable to due to the defendant's aggression. The defendant finally attacked an officer and did disfigure him. He had some scratches on his cheek, on his neck, bleeding, it was pretty bad. There was a lot of blood.
Poor Rasputin feared for his life around those law enforcement officers. He had no choice but to defend his honor.
Yeah, no, I heard that Rasputin attacked one of the officers on the scene, and it wasn't too pretty. Doesn't seem to be as bad as what happened to me.
This incident really, he's not the same man he was before.
It's just a cop.
Finally, disorderly conduct, that is a common tack-on charge for these types of other charges. It just means that the defendant was either violent, abusive, profane, loud, boisterous, or otherwise disorderly. And I think all of this behavior fits under that umbrella, so that charge was kind of a given.
The disorderly conduct charge, I'm not surprised. That is a tactic that the prosecution always tacks on in order to trump up charges.
The trial went on forever. I almost fell asleep a couple times.
Honestly, I don't know where I went during the trial. Until it was my turn to take the stand, I just kind of was staring off into the middle distance.
And at some points, I didn't know who I was rooting for.
The trial was arduous, to say the least. It was a week-long trial, so as you can imagine, it was exhausting. These are long days. We're starting every morning at 8 a.m., we're ending around 5:30 p.m., and it's evidence, evidence, evidence all day long. But that means it's incredibly chaotic. Defense did everything in their power to kneecap us at every single step.
We were determined to be difficult.
So I filed a motion in limine, which is a pretrial motion, to prohibit the defense from making disparaging remarks about the prosecution or at all commenting on the prosecution's motivations during their closing argument. Unfortunately, that was denied by the judge, so
I didn't have to hold back.
the defense was essentially allowed to excoriate me personally during their closing argument.
It meant I could say she had an agenda, that she was a cat hater, that she was anti-cat.
Which is preposterous. Me? Anti-cat? That's my great-grandmother. Ridiculous. I'm still mad about it. Another highlight, I would say, was the defendant's cross-examination. Now, I'm a pretty aggressive cross-examiner. I like to ask questions in rapid fire. And at one point, the defendant just started growling at me. I was asking, why did you attack? And then all I got back, and I didn't really know how to take that. So I asked the judge, Your Honor, I believe the witness is being non-responsive, and nobody really knew how to handle that. We couldn't tell if he was trying to threaten me and should be held in contempt, or if that should be considered an answer. And that really highlights the challenges of doing an animal trial, is that unfortunately our capacity to understand them is somewhat limited.
Ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I had a connection with the animals around me. I grew up in kind of a small town. Courtroom is not my preferred location for such communication. It was really quite a stressful time for Rasputin, you understand. So he was really resistant to it at first, but we tried to, I would come down to his level as much as I could. You know, he's not very tall, that poor thing. So we would sit him on a chair in a cushion. It was quite a lovely little setup for the poor little guy. And I would sit on the floor right next to him. And I would open my mind, open my heart, and let him speak to me. We would gaze into each other's eyes for a moment. I would let him know, telepathically of course, that I was there to just hear him, that I wasn't there to judge, I wasn't there to point fingers at him at all. I was there just to hear whatever he wanted to tell me. The way animal communication works isn't so much that I will hear him talk in my brain. That's really ridiculous, truly. Who would? No. Instead, he would send me images.
A cat psychic? The fuck is that?
It was a little embarrassing to watch. Like, who was that cat lady?
Like, she was talking about Rasputin is putting images in her mind. What?
So for sentencing, what we're looking at least from the prosecution side of things, this is going to be an argued sentencing. The defense, despite their defeat at trial, do not want this to be an agreed upon sentence because they are determined to make my life impossible every step of the way. But the state, in any event, will be recommending 2 years of initial confinement and 2 years of extended supervision.
That's absurd. He's 5 years old. He is a juvenile. If he goes to jail for 2 years plus another 2 years probation, he's gonna be 9 years old. Can you imagine?
I do acknowledge the defendant has no prior criminal record, which is why we're not asking for more prison time. The defense is not agreeing to this sentence. It will be argued. So I'm not sure at this point what the defense will be asking for.
Defense is recommending for a 2-year probation with a withheld sentence. With conditions, of course, that the defendant undergo DV treatment and AODA counseling for catnip abuse and, of course, anger management treatment.
It's still hard. I don't know how well a boy like that can fare in prison, but I don't think that's for me to think about.
I don't really know. Just whatever it takes to get him out of here.
I think after everything we went through, what I want to see now most is some justice.
If that means he's got to go to behind bars, I mean, good luck. It won't contain him here, but he's not here, and that's all I care about. That's their problem then.
We've been through so much that I think it would only be worth it if we learned something from it. That Rasputin learned something from it. If that means jail time, then I guess so be it.
I just want things to go back to normal, back to when I wasn't always so afraid.
I mean, it might be nice to have a little break from him. We might be able to sleep past 6 a.m.
I want to be able to sleep again.
What has to happen is change. We need to see change. We need to see change in his behavior. And I think whatever help he can get will be for the best.
I don't know what he deserves. I mean, he's a cat.